People underestimate how precious time really is. It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable, how we convince ourselves that we have more of it than we actually do. At 60, you start to see that illusion collapse. The horizon is no longer infinite. You can see the end now, and that's terrifying, but it's also clarifying. Now, people will tell you that after 60, you should slow down, take it easy, fade into the background, retire, relax, drift. But let me tell you something, that's a recipe for despair. Because the moment you stop moving forward, the moment you stop striving for something meaningful, you begin to decay. Not just physically, but spiritually. There's a kind of quiet death that comes from uselessness. And it creeps in when you stop demanding more from yourself. See, you can't negotiate with entropy. It's always waiting to claim you. The only antidote to it is purpose. Purpose is what keeps chaos at bay. So, if you're 60 or 65 or 70 and you feel like your best years are behind you, you're wrong. You're dangerously wrong. Because you still have something the world desperately needs: wisdom. And not the kind you can buy or fake. The kind that's been earned through failure, loss, and perseverance. But wisdom left unused rots. It becomes bitterness. So, your challenge is to turn that wisdom outward. Mentor someone. Create something. Fix what's broken. Because if you don't, you'll watch the meaning drain out of your days. And listen, it's not about doing something grand. It's not about climbing Everest or starting a company at 65. It's about responsibility. The smallest act of responsibility brings order to chaos. Clean your room. Call your family. Write the book you've been afraid to start. Go for a walk every morning and treat that walk like a contract with your own soul. There's this terrible tendency for people to see age as an excuse to retreat. But retreat from what? From life itself? From growth. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to waste what remains. Because if you do, it's not just you who pays the price, it's everyone who could have benefited from what you still have to give. It's not too late. It's only too late if you decide to surrender. But if you pick up responsibility, even now, even when your body aches, even when you think the world's passed you by, you'll find something astonishing. You'll find that life responds. The chaos will start to organize itself again. So stop wasting time. Stop pretending there's more of it than there is. You've got maybe 20 years, maybe 10, maybe 5. That's not a curse. That's a gift, a reminder to live deliberately, to make the last chapters count. And when you stand at the edge of your life and look back, you'll see something magnificent that even in your final years you became more, not less. You wrestled with time, and you didn't let it win. That's what me time after 60 is limited, treated as sacred, not disposable. It's a truth that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable to face the reality of decline. You reach a point in life where the horizon becomes visible, and it strikes you that there's far less road ahead than behind. But that recognition, painful as it may be, can also be one of the most liberating realizations you'll ever have. Because when you understand that your time is finite, every moment becomes valuable beyond measure. It's no longer something to be squandered. It's not something you can casually trade for comfort, distraction, or regret. It's sacred. And if you can learn to treat it that way, even the smallest act in your day takes on a sense of significance that you may never have felt before. The tragedy for many people is that they live as if the clock will never stop ticking. They tell themselves there's always more time. More chances, more tomorrows, more opportunities to get things right. And then one day they wake up and the tomorrows have run out. When you're 20 or 30, that illusion is seductive because it feels true. But at 60, the illusion starts to break apart. You begin to see that your time isn't a renewable resource. It's the most limited and irreplaceable thing you possess. Once you waste it, it's gone permanently. There's no refund, no compensation, no second chance at yesterday. People often say they're too old to start something new, too tired to try again, too late to make a difference. But that's a misunderstanding of what life is. You don't stop living when you reach 60. You stop living when you stop caring about how you use your time. The danger is not age itself. The danger is apathy. Because apathy convinces you that what you do doesn't matter anymore, that the clock has already beaten you, that all that's left is to wait for the inevitable. That's the real tragedy, not death. But the quiet surrender to meaningless living, treating time as sacred, means becoming deliberate about your existence. It means asking yourself every day, what am I doing that actually matters? How am I spending these remaining years in a way that honors the fact that I'm still here? When you start asking those questions seriously, your life begins to reorder itself. You begin to let go of trivial pursuits, empty conversations, and lazy distractions that once occupied your mind. You start to invest your energy in things that carry weight: relationships, purpose, creativity, service, wisdom. And there's something profound that happens when you start valuing time properly. You stop resenting the past because you're too busy making the present count. You stop fearing the future because you're using the time you have with intention. You stop wishing for more years and start using the ones you've got. That's how reverence for time transforms you, not by giving you more of it, but by teaching you to see it differently. Every morning you wake up, you're being handed something extraordinary, another day to think, to love, to build, to correct what you've neglected. It's not just another day, it's one fewer day left. And that realization can either paralyze you or awaken you. If it awakens you, you'll begin to live with a kind of urgency that isn't frantic but sacred. You'll stop wasting hours on bitterness or regret because you'll understand that they steal what little remains. You'll start living as though time is a divine trust, something you've been given to use well before it's taken back. When you grasp that, your priorities sharpen. You stop postponing the call, the apology, the idea, the change. You stop pretending there's always later. You start to live as though every moment is charged with purpose. Because after 60, every moment ends to live before it's too late. Purpose, not comfort, keeps you alive and meaningful. Comfort is seductive because it offers the illusion of peace without the effort of striving. After 60, many people are told they've earned the right to relax, to coast through whatever years remain. And there's some truth to rest being necessary, but rest without purpose quickly becomes emptiness disguised as contentment. When you remove all struggle, all responsibility, all striving, you remove the very thing that gives life its depth. The human spirit does not thrive on ease, it thrives on meaning. Comfort without purpose dulls the soul. It makes the days blend into one another until you can't tell where one week ended and the next began. Purpose, on the other hand, demands something of you. It challenges you, pushes you, asks you to get up when you'd rather stay still. It gives you direction when the horizon looks uncertain. And that's precisely why it keeps you alive. Because it gives you a reason to continue moving forward. A life centered on comfort alone is a life that slowly collapses inward. It becomes self-contained, circular, and unmotivated. But a life built on purpose, even a small one, continually expands outward. It connects you to something larger than yourself, to other people, to the world, to the unfolding story of existence itself. The pursuit of purpose is what keeps your mind sharp and your heart engaged. You can see it in people who refuse to give up their sense of duty. They wake each morning with something to contribute, something to build, something to learn. They're animated, alert, alive. And it's not because their lives are easy. Often they're not. It's because they have a reason to bear the difficulty. Purpose transforms suffering into significance. It turns pain into progress. It turns aging into wisdom rather than decline. Without it, every discomfort feels meaningless, every challenge unbearable, every day just another mark on the calendar. At 60 and beyond, the temptation to choose comfort over purpose is strong because you've already done so much. You've worked, raised families, faced loss, endured disappointment. You might feel that you've earned the right to stop trying. But that's precisely when the danger begins, when you believe you no longer have anything left to strive toward. Because the moment you lose your sense of why, you begin to fade. The body follows the mind, and the mind weakens when it stops reaching toward something higher. Purpose is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. You need it as much as food and air, because without it, your spirit starves. Purpose doesn't always come from grand endeavors. It can be as simple as caring for someone, nurturing a garden, writing a story, mentoring a young person, or mastering a craft. What matters is that it demands your attention and effort. It pulls you into the present and out of the fog of passive living. It creates a structure around your days so that time no longer feels like something to kill, but something to use. You stop existing and start participating again. You become an active agent in your own life rather than a spectator waiting for the end. Comfort lulls you into stillness. It tells you that peace means the absence of struggle. But real peace, lasting peace, is born out of a life lived intentionally, out of the pursuit of something meaningful enough to justify the pain that comes with it. When you live with purpose, your struggles are no longer wasted, they're redeemed. You can look at each challenge and say, this matters, this has weight, this is shaping me. And that's what keeps your inner world vibrant. It's what gives your eyes that spark that says you're still here, still in the fight, still moving towards something that matters. Wisdom unused turns into bitterness, share it to stay vital. Wisdom is not just knowledge or experience, it is the distilled essence of living earned through failure, perseverance, and reflection. By the time someone reaches 60, they've seen enough of the world to understand patterns that younger people can't yet perceive. They've witnessed the consequences of choices, the unfolding of time, the fragile balance between joy and suffering. But that wisdom, as valuable as it is, has a strange property. It doesn't stay alive unless it's given away. When you hold it in, it stagnates. It stops nourishing you and begins to corrode your spirit from within. The energy that once grew through experience now curdles into resentment. That's when wisdom turns into bitterness. Bitterness often comes from the belief that no one cares about what you've learned, that the world has moved on without you. People stop asking for your opinion, they start talking faster than they listen, and suddenly your insights feel obsolete. But that's an illusion. The world still needs your wisdom desperately. What has changed is that you must now take the initiative to give it. You can't wait for someone to draw it out of you. You have to become intentional about offering it, about transforming what you know into something that benefits others. That act of sharing gives your experiences meaning. It redeems the hardships you've endured by turning them into guidance, light, and stability for someone else. There is a profound difference between growing old and growing wise. Growing old happens automatically. It's just the passing of time. But growing wise requires engagement. It means you take the lessons carved into you by suffering and turn them outward into something constructive. When you don't do that, those lessons begin to fester. You start revisiting the past, rehearsing old regrets, replaying moments that you wish had gone differently. And the more you dwell on what went wrong, the more you reinforce the feeling that life has cheated you. That's the seed of bitterness. It's the spirit's protest against wasted insight. You become trapped in memory instead of liberated by it. Sharing wisdom is not about preaching or controlling others. It's about offering what you've learned in humility as a way of serving the next generation. It's about mentoring, storytelling, listening, and reminding people that the patterns of life have consequences. Your wisdom can prevent someone from making a mistake you once made or help them recover from one they've already made. It can offer perspective when the world feels chaotic. But more than what it gives to others, the act of sharing keeps you connected to the flow of life. It keeps your mind alert and your emotions engaged. When you teach, you relive what you've learned, and that keeps it alive within you. Isolation kills wisdom. When you retreat from people, when you decide the younger generation doesn't care, when you stop speaking truth because it feels like no one listens, that's when your insight starts to decay. You must resist that impulse. The truth is, people are hungry for guidance even if they don't say it outright. They're overwhelmed by a world that changes too fast, by responsibilities they don't yet understand. You can be a stabilizing force for them. And in doing so, you'll find your own sense of relevance returning. You'll realize that your years have not been wasted. They've been preparation for this moment. The vitality that comes from giving wisdom freely is unmistakable. When you share what you know, your posture changes, your eyes regain that brightness, your mind stays sharp. You begin to see that you're still part of something unfolding. You're no longer standing outside of time, watching it pass. You're woven into its movement again. Wisdom was never meant to be a private possession. It was meant to circulate, to renew both the giver and the receiver. And when you keep it moving, it keeps you alive in every sense that matters. Responsibility, even in small acts, restores order and meaning. When life begins to feel chaotic, aimless, or empty, the most powerful thing you can do is take responsibility for something, anything. It doesn't have to be large or impressive. It could be tending to your home, caring for a person, learning a skill, or even keeping a daily routine. Responsibility brings structure to the disorder of existence. It pulls the fragmented pieces of your attention together and gives them direction. Without it, life becomes a series of disconnected moments, each fading into the next without purpose. But the moment you take on even a modest task and decide to do it well, you begin to create order out of the chaos. At 60 and beyond, It's easy to feel as though the major responsibilities of life are behind you. You may have raised children, built a career, paid your debts, and fulfilled the obligations society demanded, but the need for responsibility doesn't end there. In fact, it becomes even more crucial because it's what keeps your inner world intact. Without new responsibilities, you drift. You start to lose touch with your sense of agency, that deep, vital belief that you can still influence the world around you. Responsibility reawakens that belief. It reminds you that your choices still matter, that your actions still have weight, that your life still has consequence. When you choose responsibility, you are making a declaration against meaninglessness. You're saying that despite uncertainty, despite age, despite decline, there is still something worth shaping, fixing, improving. And that attitude changes the way you experience time. Suddenly, each day is not something to endure, but something to steward. You begin to wake up with a sense of purpose that comes from having something to attend to. Even if the task is humble, sweeping the floor, organizing your space, mentoring someone younger, it becomes a small act of rebellion against decay. It is a way of saying to yourself, I can still bring order where there is disorder. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a source of strength. It focuses your energy and gives you direction when life feels uncertain. People often chase happiness as though it's something that can be achieved directly, but happiness is a byproduct of responsibility. It emerges naturally when you carry the right kind of weight. When you stop avoiding the small duties in front of you and start embracing them, you rediscover the satisfaction that comes from progress, from movement, from contribution. The smallest responsibility taken seriously can ignite a spark that illuminates your entire life. There's also a moral and spiritual dimension to this. When you take responsibility, you align yourself with the fundamental order of being, the idea that chaos can be transformed into something good through conscious effort. Every act of responsibility, no matter how minor, is an affirmation of life's potential for meaning. It's a statement of faith that the world can be better tomorrow because of what you choose to do today. And that mindset, once cultivated, spreads. You start to see that your behavior influences others. When people around you observe that you care enough to act, it gives them permission to do the same. Responsibility is contagious. It creates a ripple effect of order and meaning that extends beyond you. Even when your capacity feels limited, there's always something you can take ownership of. Your words, your health, your relationships, your environment, these are all domains that respond to attention and care. When you take responsibility for them, you transform not only the external world, but also your inner state. You feel stronger, clearer, more present. The fog of helplessness begins to lift. Responsibility is the antidote to despair because it gives you a role to play in the ongoing story of life. It anchors you in purpose. It tells you that, regardless of age or circumstance, you are still a participant in creation, still capable of bringing something good into being. It's never too late to grow. Surrender is the only real death. Growth doesn't stop when your body slows down. It stops when your spirit gives up. People often make the mistake of thinking that aging is purely a process of decline, as if every year past 60 is just a slow fading away. But that's a narrow view of what it means to live. Growth isn't limited to youth, to ambition, or to novelty. Growth is the continual expansion of understanding, character, and depth. As long as you can think, reflect, and act, you can grow. You can learn something new, improve some part of yourself, contribute to the world around you in ways that your younger self couldn't even imagine. The capacity for growth doesn't vanish, it just changes its form. It becomes quieter, more internal, but no less powerful. Surrender, on the other hand, is what kills you long before the body fails. It's the decision to stop engaging with life, to retreat into resignation, to accept decline as your only story. That kind of surrender often disguises itself as realism, the belief that things are the way they are, that there's no point in changing or striving anymore. But that's not realism, it's defeat. It's the slow corrosion of the human will. Once you decide that growth no longer applies to you, you start to shrink. Your world becomes smaller, your curiosity fades, and your sense of wonder disappears. You become trapped in repetition, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, avoiding the discomfort that comes with new challenges. That is the true death, the quiet one that begins long before the physical end. Growth at 60, 70, or 80 doesn't look like the growth of 20. It's less about conquest and more about cultivation. It's about refining what you already know, deepening your wisdom, and expanding your compassion. You may not be chasing new careers or physical adventures, but you can still chase understanding. You can still read, study, create, mentor, listen, and question. You can still become more articulate, more patient, more forgiving, more courageous. These forms of growth are not small. They are monumental because they shape who you are at the core. The body ages, but the soul matures, and maturity is its own kind of beauty. What's remarkable is that even small acts of growth have profound effects. When you learn something new, your brain responds, it stays active, adaptable, alive. When you reach out to mend a broken relationship, your heart grows stronger. When you face a fear that you've avoided for years, your spirit expands. These are not trivial changes. They're proof that life continues to respond to your effort. The universe never stops offering you the chance to evolve. You just have to keep saying yes. Many people believe that growth requires energy they no longer have, but what it truly requires is willingness. Willingness to face discomfort, to admit what you don't know, to start again in small ways. Growth isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing honesty over pride, patience over anger, gratitude over resentment. Those choices reshape you from the inside out. They prove that your humanity is still alive, still dynamic. The moment you stop making those choices is the moment you stop truly living. Surrender often whispers that it's easier to stop trying, to settle into routine, to avoid the pain that comes with change. But the cost of that comfort is the erosion of meaning. Growth may be difficult, but it's the only thing that keeps life vibrant. Every time you choose to stretch yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you reclaim a piece of that vitality. You remind yourself that your story isn't finished. As long as you refuse to surrender, as long as you keep reaching beyond what's familiar, life continues to open itself to you in ways that are endlessly surprising.